AI thinks. Humans think. How are they different? How are they similar? How can you use these insights to create better prompts, to create better agents, to be a master of the models in an age of AI agent armies? Let's start by defining how each one of them think, then go over their similarities, go into their differences, finalize with important insights and conclusions. So, humans think by having a sensory experience of the world and holding certain statements of truth in mind and using these statements of truth to determine the next best action in a sequence of actions to achieve a goal. And they use their senses, they use language, they use images. They have a complex way of holding these things in mind, yet they are fundamentally limited by energy and time. So is AI. AI, at its current level, what it's doing is it's understanding the world by training on a vast data set of language that is on the internet or other curated data sets to build an algorithm that allows it to understand the world and predict the next sequence of words or tokens in a specific situation. And each one of those situations is fundamentally defined by language. So currently LLMs are constrained to this state. And we're talking about LLMs specifically today, LLM powered agents. And when we have something called a reward function. A reward function is what allows an AI to understand whether it's doing well on a particular task. When an AI agent has the capacity to use different mathematical tools to arrive at a particular mathematical answer, and it can be trained to arrive at that different mathematical answer, taking different pathways, well, it's very easy to understand if the AI did the thing right or not because it arrived at the answer or it got it wrong. So it's easy to understand whether it's doing a good job there. But with other methods or other goals, such as writing good content, it's more difficult because it's way more subjective to measure the accuracy and understand how well the AI is performing. Now that we have both in mind, we have people that think based on sensory experiences and hold truths in mind. Then we have AIs that have world models that understand how different concepts relate to each other via an algorithm that computes the next most likely word that is trained on vast data sets of information, of language. Well, we can start to understand some of the similarities. So one critical similarity is that we're both predicting the next best outcome in a sequence. We're both using an understanding of the world, an understanding of how objects have related to each other in the past to predict the next best future. For example, humans can know and remember that to screw in a screw, they need to rotate it in a counterclockwise direction. And they can store this information in their minds, and whenever they have to do it again, they can easily pull up that information and do it. AI can understand that too, but they don't have the tactile experience of that screw going in the right place. What they have is a world model that understands that the screw goes in a clockwise direction based on information it has seen on the internet or in its data set. And that's where they fundamentally diverge, because if an AI doesn't have information in its data set about how something works, well, then it might predict something incorrectly, because sometimes it predicts what looks right and not always what is right, because it doesn't have a fundamental understanding of the relationships between things. It just has a probabilistic understanding of the relationships between things. Humans have a closer grasp to the truth. They know that if they always grab a screw and they turn it in the clockwise direction, it's going to get tighter. They know that for a fact. And that's another key differentiator. humans can have long-term memory and have facts and know these facts by heart. Now, that memory is fallible and they can forget things, right? Unless the thing that they're doing is hardwired into their everyday lives. And that's where a human's memory becomes way more of an asset when it's hardwired. But when they forget facts, it can be difficult. AI doesn't always know these facts by heart and can't really access them as in such a high fidelity way as humans can. Although you can give AI a document with specific facts and it'll most likely predict the next best token because it understands the knowledge that it's working with, right? And that's another similarity. If humans don't know data about a particular field, they're not going to know how to do something either. So that's a very fundamental and interesting way that they're similar. Another way that they differentiate is that humans are stateful. So if something happens to a human and they build experience doing something like building financial models over time, they can really remember the things that they did and understand the pitfalls and the routes to success in a way that they can apply instantaneously, and they have their own mechanisms. People have their own mechanisms for building amazing things and doing them quickly and storing that information. AI doesn't really have that. A base model without any prompts or any context engineered into its pipeline or any tools that it can call is going to always start from scratch and only be as knowledgeable as it was when it was trained. And what it was trained on could be limited either to a very specific field, or it could be so general that it won't know what to do in very specific situations. That's when, of course, prompting comes in. That's when context engineering comes in, where we can inject variables, inject facts, inject principles that we want into the AI so that it follows them. But again, that's where humans have a more discerning eye. That's where humans can actually be the arbiters of truth and understand what's good and what's not. Have a very fundamental understanding of the truth. Sometimes AI will go off on this prediction of text that sounds very real and sound and solid, but in reality, it just sounds real. And if you look at the actual text, the connections between the concepts are not really making a lot of sense. They just look right, they just sound smart, and they're just predicting. We're getting better at this with reinforcement learning, especially reinforcement learning with human feedback. And this is helping us teach the AIs what's good and what is not, and helping the AI tune its weights to get better. And of course, when we have a verifiable reward where you can very clearly tell if an AI was right or not, or it either got the answer to a math problem or not, or it beat a video game or not, then we can tune the weights or tune the AI to better arrive at that verifiable conclusion. And it'll get better at this kind of thing, like solving the right configuration to create a farm in a box to put farm in a box everywhere around the world and create sustainable resources and more resources for the world, because the AI can put this in a simulation environment and swap out different components until it arrives at the right KPIs, like the right amount of materials are used and the right amount of space is used and the crops grow in the simulation environment. Like, that's all very verifiable. When we're looking at writing and understanding if AI is producing good writing, it's way harder to tell, because how can you really tell what the truth is? How can you know that every concept is connected to the last in a way that is precise and is well thought out and has the reader in mind? That can be very hard to tell when writing. That's why I don't use AI when I write. And these are some fundamental differences, fundamental similarities. LLMs carry an algorithm that shifts on demand, and humans carry lived experiences that they can apply to unique situations. And just as you know, like they're both very adaptable and very similar in that sense. And they both have their internal models, albeit the internal models work with different mediums and at different speeds and with different information flows that produce different outcomes. AI needs these vast data sets, and AI can work 24/7, right? Like your only bottleneck is compute and computational resources, but humans have this long-term memory and can create artifacts and can look at the future with just a thought and can connect experiences without having to rely on sequential patterns of reasoning and data sets that could throw things off. So it's not a question about whether AI is better than humans. I think the goal is to find out how we can work together with AI to design the best possible outcomes. But AI is going to continue to get better, and the form factors are going to continue to change. So we need to be aware and ethical about the ways in which we are going to use it. I think that with proper guidance, with great memory storage, with infusing the AI with great principles, by chaining prompts together, by creating the right context for the AI, and really thinking through what we want to build as people, as a society, we can do amazing things with AI and build extraordinary artifacts for the world to create better resources and a better planet for everyone to live on. Like, comment, and subscribe. This was day 28 of day 30 of my 30-day YouTube challenge. See you on the next one.